My closest friend stormed into my rehearsal dinner and declared, "Everyone deserves to hear what the groom did during my test." She raised Ryan's phone over her head like a prize while my family and his family sat paralyzed in the country club banquet room we'd booked for 70 guests. What test? What are you even saying? I rose from the head table where Ryan and I had just been clinking glasses to our wedding tomorrow, my wedding rehearsal dinner. It was supposed to be a night of laughter and joy, a beautiful prelude to the biggest day of my life. Instead, it became a living nightmare, a public trial orchestrated by the one person I trusted most in the world, my maid of honor, my best friend since second grade. Can you even imagine the gut-wrenching betrayal when she stood before 70 bewildered guests, wielding evidence from a secret, month-long investigation designed to prove my fiancé was a cheat? Melissa, my supposedly closest friend, strolled between the tables, making sure every eye was on her. She waved my fiancé, Ryan's phone, like a trophy, a smug, sickening smile on her face. "I've been testing Ryan for the past month," she announced, her voice echoing in the stunned silence. "To make sure he deserves you. He failed." Ryan, his face instantly draining of color, lunged for his phone, his hand shaking. "Give me my phone. You had no right to take it." His mother was already quietly sobbing, and his father looked like he was about to call security. But Melissa just pulled it away, her smile unwavering. "I had every right," she declared, puffing out her chest. "I'm the maid of honor. It's my job to protect the bride." Then she pulled out a folder from her bag, a seemingly endless bag, I'd soon discover, and began passing out papers to our guests. "These," she said, her voice dripping with self-importance, "are the results of my loyalty examination. Page 1 shows the text messages Ryan sent to the woman I hired to flirt with him at his gym." My blood ran cold. People were staring at the papers, then at Ryan, then back at me. I snatched a page. My eyes scanned the texts, and a wave of relief, quickly followed by confusion, washed over me. It was just normal stuff. "Thanks, but I'm engaged." My fiancé wouldn't appreciate this. Nothing, absolutely nothing, was incriminating. "These messages show he was faithful," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, my gaze fixed on Melissa. "What's your point?" I tried to collect the other papers, but it was too late. She'd already distributed them to every table. "That's just the first test," she practically purred. "Look at page 2. The second page showed messages from a fake social media account Melissa had created, pretending to be Ryan's ex, Rachel. And Ryan had responded. My heart pounded. But again, the texts were harmless. "Please don't contact me. I'm getting married tomorrow and I've moved on." "You're insane." Ryan's brother, Jasper, exploded, rising from his seat. "You catfished my fiancé to test him." His face was a mask of pure fury. "She's been stalking me for a month, following me to work, to the gym." He pointed at Melissa. "She even showed up at my bachelor party dressed as a waitress." Melissa, unbelievable, just smiled. "And you didn't even notice me," she said, as if proud of her deception. "Which proves you were drinking too much." A good husband would have recognized his bride's best friend, even in disguise. Strike 2. My mother, Diane, tried to intervene, her voice gentle. "Melissa, honey, maybe we should discuss this privately." But Melissa wasn't done. She pulled out her laptop, connecting it to the venue's screen system, the one meant to show our engagement photos during dinner. "This is security footage from outside Ryan's apartment building," she announced. "Notice the timestamp." The grainy video showed Ryan entering his building at 11:47 p.m. This was last Tuesday, Melissa explained, when he said he was working late, but his office closes at 9 o'clock. Where was he for almost 3 hours? Ryan threw up his hands in exasperation. "I went to the jeweler to pick up your wedding gift, then got dinner with my brother to calm my nerves about the wedding. You can check my credit card." Melissa shook her head, a patronizing look on her face, as if he were a misbehaving child. You should have been home studying the wedding vows I wrote for you. Did you even read them? Let's find out. From her seemingly bottomless bag, she produced another stack of papers. Everyone turned to page 3. These are the vows I wrote for Ryan to memorize. I gave them to him 3 weeks ago. Ryan, recite them now. The papers detailed 5 paragraphs of the most over-the-top, possessive promises I'd ever read. Things like, I promise to call you every hour when we're apart, and I vow to never have female friends or coworkers. My stomach churned. I never agreed to say these vows. Ryan pleaded, looking desperately at me. You slipped them under my door with no explanation. I thought it was a joke. I wrote my own vows, real ones. Melissa turned to face the stunned crowd. A truly devoted groom would have memorized anything the maid of honor gave him. This proves he doesn't take the wedding seriously. Then her eyes gleamed. But here's the worst part. She clicked to the next slide on her laptop. It was a photo of Ryan having lunch with a woman just yesterday, the day before our wedding. My heart seized. But then relief flooded me. That's his sister, Julia. I blurted out. She flew in from Seattle for the wedding. Melissa scoffed. That's what he wants you to think. But look closer. They're sharing food, intimate behavior, and she touched his hand twice during the meal. I counted. Julia, Ryan's sister, stood up from her table, her face aghast. I'm literally his sister. You watched us have lunch? What is wrong with you? Melissa ignored her, turning back to me, her eyes manic. The final test was the most important. I offered Ryan a deal. I told him I would give him $50,000 to call off the wedding and leave town. I said, you'd be better off without him and I could take care of you instead. She pulled out her phone and played a recording. Ryan's voice filled the silent banquet hall, clear and steady. He wouldn't take any amount of money to leave me, that Melissa was out of her mind for even suggesting it. A wave of profound relief washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by pure incandescent rage. My best friend, since second grade, had just tried to bribe my future husband to abandon me at the altar. I snatched the phone from Melissa's hand before she could pull it away, holding it behind my back. She reached for it, but I held my ground, staring at her like she was a stranger wearing my best friend's face. The banquet hall had gone completely silent. Someone's grandmother coughed in the back corner. Ryan's father, Brian, pushed his chair back so hard it scraped against the floor, making a screech that made everyone jump. He walked straight to the country club manager, who was practically shrinking into the floor, and spoke in a low voice, but in that silence I heard every word. He told the manager to call security immediately, that this had gone far enough, and Melissa needed to be removed. Melissa clutched her laptop to her chest, the folder of papers in her other hand, as if they were life rafts. She spun around to face the room, words tumbling out faster, more frantic. She insisted everyone needed to see the rest of her findings, that she had documented everything, patterns of behavior proving Ryan wasn't ready. Her hands shook so violently the papers rattled. I looked around. 70 confused, uncomfortable faces stared back. My grandmother was crying into a napkin. Ryan's cousins whispered behind their hands. The wedding coordinator was texting furiously. Our rehearsal dinner, 3 months and thousands of dollars in the making, had become a public interrogation. I had no idea how to fix it, how to make it stop. My mother, Diane, approached Melissa with her hands out, like she was calming a wild animal. She suggested they talk privately, but Melissa shook her head, her hair flying around her face. This concerns everyone here, she shrieked. They all need to know what kind of man she's marrying before they watch her make the biggest mistake of her life. That edge in her voice, manic, desperate, scared me more than any accusation. This wasn't the Melissa who'd helped me study, braided my hair, or held my hand at my grandfather's funeral. Then Jasper, Ryan's brother, stood up, pulling out his phone. "I need to clear something up right now," he said firmly. He confirmed he'd been with Ryan those 3 hours last Tuesday, showing his credit card receipt from dinner. Then he dropped a bomb that made my stomach plummet. Melissa had followed them, sitting 3 tables away, watching their entire meal. He'd thought it was weird, but dismissed it until now. Now he realized she'd been stalking Ryan. Just then, the country club manager reappeared with 2 hulking security guards. The manager quietly asked Melissa to leave. She refused, her voice growing louder. She was the maid of honor. She had a right to be here. The guards positioned themselves on either side of her, waiting. Finally, I found my voice. It came out stronger than I expected. "Melissa," I said, every word a hammer blow against our friendship. "What you did wasn't protection. It was stalking and harassment. You had no right to follow Ryan, to hire women, to create fake accounts, to show up at his bachelor party in disguise." It felt like I was breaking something between us that could never be fixed. She looked at me with genuine confusion, as if she truly didn't understand why I wasn't thanking her. She'd sacrificed her time and money to protect me, and this was how I repaid her? She pulled out her phone again, scrolling with shaking fingers. She started reading text messages aloud, our texts from the past year. Every complaint I'd ever made about Ryan, every small disagreement she'd saved. She'd kept a file on our relationship problems, interpreting normal couple stress as red flags, justifying her insane investigation. Ryan buried his head in his hands, his whole body collapsing. His mother, Carly, moved to stand behind him, glaring at Melissa with a look of pure, protective fury I'd never seen. My future husband had been stalked for weeks by someone he thought was my friend, and I hadn't seen it. Guilt gnawed at me. My father, Hudson, stood up. His voice was firm, commanding. "Security," he said. "Remove Melissa from the property. Now. Not in 5 minutes. Immediately." Melissa's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "No. Please. Don't throw me out," she begged me. "If you just listen to the rest of my evidence, you'll understand. I'm doing this because I love you." I held up my hand, stopping the guards. I turned to Melissa, my voice surprisingly steady. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you really do this?" She wiped her tears, smearing mascara across her cheek. She spoke about her sister, whose husband had cheated, and how it had shattered her. "I couldn't let that happen to you," she choked out. "You're like a sister to me. I love you too much." Her hands shook as she spoke, her eyes pleading for understanding. The wedding coordinator appeared at my elbow, speaking quietly. "We need to wrap this up," she said, gesturing to the waiting banquet staff. "We're 30 minutes over." My wedding was in 19 hours. I felt an overwhelming wave of exhaustion. I turned back to Melissa, making a swift decision. "You need to leave now," I told her. "We'll talk tomorrow, after I've had time to process everything." She immediately protested, reaching for my arm, but I pulled away. "If you really care about me," I said, "you'll respect this boundary and go home." The security guards moved closer. Melissa looked between them and me, disbelief etched on her face. Clutching her evidence folder, she was led toward the exit. "You're making a mistake," she called over her shoulder, her voice fading as they escorted her out. "I have more evidence you need to see." The main doors closed, and a deafening silence fell over the banquet hall. Then the silence shattered. Everyone started talking at once. Ryan's family gathered around him. My family looked embarrassed, glancing nervously at Ryan's. I stood in the middle, wondering if my wedding could still happen. Guests were already leaving, some without a word. The coordinator touched my shoulder, leading Ryan and me to a quiet corner. "Are you proceeding with tomorrow's ceremony?" she asked, pen poised on her clipboard. Ryan reached for my hand. His palm was sweaty. "I still want to marry you," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "If you still want to marry me." I looked at his face, thought of Melissa's accusations and how he had handled it all with such dignity. Despite the chaos, the humiliation, and my best friend losing her mind, my answer was an unwavering yes. I squeezed his hand. "The wedding is on," I told the coordinator. She looked visibly relieved. We did a quick run-through with the officiant, while the remaining guests ate their now-cold dinner in awkward silence. I kept stumbling over my positions, my brain replaying Melissa's manic face. Ryan's hand stayed in mine, trembling slightly. The rehearsal, meant for an hour, took 15 minutes. No one clapped. My mother's smile was forced. Ryan's father whispered to his mother. Ryan and I left separately as planned. He kissed my forehead in the parking lot. "I love you," he whispered. I watched him drive away, then got into my own car. My phone buzzed. "Melissa." 17 messages appeared during my drive to my parents' house. I glanced at a few at a red light. Apologies mixed with insistence. She'd done the right thing. More evidence. Ryan manipulating me. I put the phone in my purse. My mother was waiting. We sat at the kitchen table where Melissa and I used to do homework, the same chairs from middle school. Mom gently asked if I'd noticed other concerning behavior from Melissa. The question hung heavy. I started recounting the past few months. Melissa insisting on approving my wedding dress, crying for an hour when I picked one she didn't like. Her attempts to uninvite Ryan's female coworkers. The daily calls, asking detailed questions about Ryan's schedule. I'd dismissed them as quirks, as her being overprotective. Now I realized she was building her case. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. "Julia." She sounded shaken. Melissa had shown up at her hotel lobby, demanding to talk about Ryan. Hotel security had to escort her out after she tried to follow Julia to the elevators. Julia said Melissa had a notebook filled with dates and times, insisting they needed to compare notes. Julia asked if I was okay if the wedding was still happening. I said yes, but my voice wasn't convincing. I hung up, staring at my phone. Ryan needed to know. I called him. He answered on the first ring, his voice tired. He admitted Melissa had been calling and texting him all evening too, sending him 15 articles about prenups, divorce rates, and marriage counseling websites, each with a note saying it wasn't too late to reconsider. She was still trying to convince him to leave me, even after being thrown out of the rehearsal dinner. I felt sick. We talked for 2 hours. He went through each of Melissa's accusations, explaining where he really was. The gym, lunch with Julia, the bachelor party. His voice got quieter when he spoke about Melissa watching him for weeks without him knowing. It made him feel violated, like his privacy had been stripped away. He felt physically sick when Jasper had confirmed Melissa was at the bachelor party. He wondered what else she'd done. This had traumatized him. We finally hung up at midnight. I tried to sleep, but Melissa's face, so convinced she was helping me, haunted me. I fell asleep around 2 a.m. and woke 3 hours later, stomach in knots. My wedding day. 43 text messages from Melissa had come in overnight. Apologies, then detailed explanations of her scientifically valid loyalty tests. She'd researched private investigators' online forums. The messages grew frantic, ending with paragraphs about how she'd rather hurt my feelings now than watch me get divorced later, like her sister. I put the phone face down. This was my wedding day, and my former best friend was justifying stalking my fiancé as an act of love. My bridesmaids arrived, whispering. They were checking their phones, wondering if Melissa would show. One finally asked if she was still maid of honor. I looked at the empty space where her dress should have been. I didn't know if she'd try to come. My cousin called the venue to get a photo of Melissa circulated, instructing them not to let her in. Add the maid of honor to the ban list. It felt surreal. At 9 a.m., I went to the bathroom, closing the door. I stared at Melissa's contact, then pressed call. She answered immediately, hopeful. I took a deep breath. "Melissa," I said as calmly as I could, "you are no longer my maid of honor, and you are not welcome at the wedding today." The silence on the other end was deafening. Then she started to cry, big gasping sobs. She begged for another chance. She'd apologize, behave perfectly. She'd bought a new dress. She was my best friend for 20 years. "Please don't do this," she sobbed. "Please let me fix it." I stayed firm. My decision is final. Her crying stopped abruptly. Her tone shifted. "You're making a huge mistake," she spat, her voice cold. She'd only shown me the preliminary findings. She had more evidence. Testimony from Ryan's ex, Rachel, whom she'd tracked down and interviewed last week. Things I needed to hear before I legally bound myself to him. That manic edge was back. I told her contacting Ryan's ex crossed every line, and I was done. She started yelling. I was brainwashed. Ryan had manipulated me. I was throwing away the one person who actually cared about my well-being. I hung up mid-sentence and blocked her number. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. I sank to the bathroom floor. My mother knocked. I opened the door, tears streaming, ruining my makeup. She didn't say a word, just sat beside me, pulling me against her shoulder. I sobbed about losing my best friend on my wedding day, about how we'd planned our weddings together since we were kids. My mother held me, stroking my hair. "Real friends don't stalk your fiancé or sabotage your wedding," she said quietly. "Sometimes people we love turn out to be people we need to protect ourselves from." The stylist silently fixed my makeup. My cousin casually mentioned Melissa had always been a bit intense about our friendship. The other bridesmaids chimed in, suddenly. Melissa getting upset if I made plans without her. Crying at my birthday party because she wasn't at my table. Asking them if Ryan was causing problems in our friendship. They revealed Melissa had called each of them, asking them to report any red flags about Ryan, any suspicious behavior. She'd created a shared document to track his social media. They'd all declined, thinking it was weird but harmless, just Melissa being overprotective. Now they realized it was a surveillance operation. They felt guilty for not warning me. I sat there, realizing how many people had seen the signs, but dismissed them. How many warnings I'd ignored because she was my best friend. My phone buzzed. Not Ryan, but the wedding coordinator. "Situation at the venue," she whispered, traffic noise in the background. Melissa had shown up, demanding to speak with me. Security was keeping her in the parking lot, but she refused to leave, making quite a scene. My mother took the phone. My father, already putting on his jacket, said he'd go handle it. He called 20 minutes later. He'd convinced Melissa to leave by promising she and I would meet for coffee next week. A promise he whispered I didn't have to keep. Relief washed over me. Security now had her photo. She wouldn't be allowed back. My mother helped me into my dress, the ivory lace I'd chosen 6 months ago, with Melissa giving opinions on every detail. I stared at myself in the mirror. Despite everything, I still wanted to marry Ryan. The chaos had somehow made me more certain. He'd handled being stalked and publicly accused with dignity. He never lost his temper. We drove to the venue. The coordinator, stress in her eyes, assured me Melissa wouldn't get in. I tried to focus on marrying the man I loved, not the friend I'd lost. In the bridal suite, someone handed me champagne, but my stomach was too unsettled. At 1:45, it was time to line up. My father offered his arm. We stepped into view. Ryan stood at the altar, tears in his eyes as he saw me. We both knew everything we'd gone through to get to this moment. All the stalking, the accusations, the public humiliation. It could have destroyed us, but somehow it had made us stronger. The officiant began. I scanned the crowd, but there was no sign of Melissa. Everyone just smiled. Ryan read his vows, promising to trust me, communicate honestly, and protect our relationship from outside interference. His voice caught on that last part. We both knew what he meant, protecting us from people like Melissa. I read my own vows, promising to always choose him, even when others tried to come between us. The officiant pronounced us married. We kissed and our families clapped. Walking back down the aisle, hand in hand, I felt a mix of joy and sadness. The person who should have been my maid of honor wasn't there. That absence was a wound that would take a long time to heal. But I had Ryan. We'd survived. At the reception, guests apologized for the rehearsal dinner. Ryan's mother, Carly, hugged me tightly. "You handled an impossible situation with grace," she whispered. "I'm proud to have you as my daughter-in-law." Her acceptance meant everything. During dinner, my phone vibrated. An unknown number. Photos of Ryan and me, captioned with analyses of our body language, proving signs of trouble. "Melissa," using someone else's phone. Ryan's jaw tightened. We turned off both our phones. Our first dance. The DJ announced us as husband and wife. Ryan led me to the dance floor. "We survived Melissa's investigation and public accusations," he whispered in my ear. "We can probably survive anything marriage throws at us." I laughed. He was right. Whatever challenges came, they probably wouldn't involve a childhood best friend ambushing our rehearsal dinner with fake evidence. We'd been through the worst and come out stronger. Later, Julia pulled me aside. She was worried about Melissa. The hotel incident. Melissa's eyes had looked wrong, repeating phrases about protecting me. Julia suggested Melissa needed professional help. Guilt settled in my chest. I'd missed the warning signs that something was seriously wrong with my oldest friend. Julia squeezed my hand. "It wasn't your fault." My father's toast. He talked about Ryan and me balancing each other, how happy I was. He kept glancing at the entrances, watching for Melissa. His hand shook slightly as he raised his glass. He never mentioned the maid of honor or last night's chaos, but I could feel the tension. When he finished, Ryan hugged him, and my father whispered something I couldn't hear. The reception ended. Ryan and I drove to our hotel. We were exhausted. "We need to decide how to handle Melissa," Ryan said finally. "This isn't going away." We planned clear boundaries. No contact for at least 6 months. Legal action if she kept harassing us. The thought of lawyers with someone I'd grown up with made me sick, but he was right. In the hotel room, I unblocked Melissa's number. 27 texts from overnight loaded. Angry ones first, then desperate apologies. She knew she'd made mistakes, but everything came from a place of love. She was sorry, but she also claimed I'd made a huge mistake. Ryan read them, then suggested we talk to a lawyer about a restraining order when we got back from our honeymoon. I nodded. It was the smart thing to do. But taking legal action against my childhood best friend? It made me want to throw up. We left for Italy the next morning. For the first few days, I couldn't relax. I kept checking my phone. Melissa was silent. Ryan gently pointed out I was missing Italy, staring at my phone. I put it in my suitcase for 2 days. On day 5, I checked my email. A message from my mother. Melissa showed up. My stomach dropped. Melissa had come to their house, asking to go through my old bedroom. Mom refused, but Melissa sat in her car across the street for 3 hours, just staring. It was unsettling. I showed Ryan the email. "This isn't just a friend who's hurt," he said. "Her behavior is getting worse." We decided to enjoy the rest of our honeymoon, then deal with it. For the next 8 days, we explored Italy, ate amazing food, took a cooking class, drank wine. I pushed Melissa out of my mind. Ryan and I grew closer, making plans for our future. We landed home 2 weeks later. A package was outside our door. No return address, but Melissa's handwriting. Inside, a beautiful scrapbook documenting our friendship from 2nd grade. Photos, ticket stubs, notes. It made me cry. A note was tucked inside. She was sorry, but she stood by her decision to test Ryan. "I'd rather have you hate me and be safe than love me and end up in a bad marriage." She genuinely believed she'd done the right thing. It hurt. Ryan suggested we put it away. The next morning, I called my doctor for a therapist referral. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on a couch, crying. I told her everything. The friendship, the stalking, the letter. Grief, anger, betrayal, guilt. She listened. You can grieve the friendship while also recognizing that Melissa's behavior was wrong, she said. Those two things don't cancel each other out. It made sense. 2 weeks after the cease and desist letter, Ryan called. Melissa had shown up at his office building, trying to get past security with a folder talking about healthy marriage communication. Security threatened to call the police. The interaction was caught on camera. We sent the footage to our lawyer. This was it. She'd violated the letter. We filed for a restraining order. 3 weeks felt like an eternity. Every phone call, every noise in the hallway made me jump. The court hearing. Melissa was there, sitting alone, looking disheveled. She represented herself. Our lawyer presented all our evidence. Texts, emails, timeline, witness statements, security footage. An hour of meticulously documented obsession. The judge asked Melissa if she wanted to respond. She spoke in a shaky voice. She was trying to protect me. Her methods were unusual, but from a place of love. She never meant to scare anyone. The judge asked if she understood her behavior was stalking and harassment. She said she didn't see it that way, but understood that we did. He granted us a 1-year restraining order. 500 feet away. No contact. If she violated it, she'd be arrested. Melissa started crying. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a weird mix of relief and sadness. Relief for the legal protection. Sadness because my best friend since childhood had become someone I needed legal protection from. It was surreal. Ryan held me as I sobbed. I was grieving the friendship. It was truly over. No going back. Over the next few months, Melissa stayed away. My mother heard through a coworker that Melissa was asking about me through mutual friends, trying to find out how I was doing without violating the order. She was also seeing a therapist twice a week. A mix of relief that she was getting help and sadness that our friendship had broken so severely. Ryan and I settled into married life. We unpacked boxes, argued about furniture, learned each other's habits. We were more careful with each other, talking through small annoyances, communicating more. He shared his schedule without me asking. I included him in plans. The experience taught us that protecting our relationship meant intentional communication and boundaries. We were stronger. Our families rallied around us. 6 months after the wedding, I was still in therapy. My therapist helped me understand that toxic friendships could damage you just as much as toxic romantic relationships. I wasn't to blame for trusting someone I'd known since 2nd grade. Setting boundaries wasn't cruel. I couldn't have prevented Melissa's breakdown. The restraining order wasn't abandoning a friend. It was setting a necessary boundary to keep us safe. On our 1-year anniversary, we ate takeout and looked at wedding photos. We talked about how far we'd come, how we'd built a good life despite everything Melissa tried to destroy. We chose to trust each other, not let her accusations plant seeds of doubt. The trauma had made us better partners. The restraining order would expire soon, but we'd cross that bridge when we got there. We were focused on building our life on the daily joys. I still thought about Melissa sometimes, wondered if she was healing. Part of me hoped she was, but I'd accepted our friendship was over, and that was okay even if it still hurt. Some relationships aren't meant to last forever. Ryan and I were happy. Life wasn't perfect, but it was genuinely good. Have you ever had a friendship take such a dark, obsessive turn? What would you have done in my place when your best friend turned into a stalker? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really love to hear from you.